One of the most tense and controversial situations of the Monaco GP was the crash early in the initial lap between Sergio Pérez and Kevin Magnussen, which took both drivers out of the race and also involved Hulkenberg. The footage of the crash was impressive. There wasn't much left of Pérez's car, except for its survival cell, with debris scattered all over the track. But the big question in this situation is, who was at fault, Pérez or Magnussen? Well, this question has sparked a lot of discussion, as opinions vary greatly. Some, like Sergio Pérez himself, point out that Magnussen was to blame, as trying to force an overtake on such a complicated and narrow track like Monaco was extremely dangerous and irresponsible. Others argue that things were not quite like that, and even though Magnussen had his share of the blame, Pérez also contributed to the situation. According to the footage, the Mexican driver saw that Magnussen was attempting something on his right, having looked in his rearview mirror several times and even moved a bit to the right with his car. So knowing all this, he should have given more space to the Haas driver, which would not only help the Mexican maintain his position, as Magnussen would hardly be able to complete the overtake there, but also avoid this collision between them and consequently the end of his race. Well, of course, there's nothing wrong with being aggressive and defending your position, but in this case, Pérez knew who was behind him. Kevin Magnussen is not known for easing off, and has made several mistakes in his career, even being on the verge of a suspension because of it. So the driver for the biggest team on the grid, a world vice champion, should have thought a bit more and, whether right or wrong, avoided getting involved in a dispute with Magnussen, especially on the first lap of the Monaco GP, one of the most complicated of the season. For his team, and his continued presence at Red Bull, the most prudent choice would have been for Pérez to play it safe, after all. He was only in 18th place and was unlikely to advance much more during the race, with reaching the point zone being practically impossible. And even if he lost the position to Haas, he would have almost 80 laps to calmly regain that position. With all this, it's hard to single out one person to blame for this situation, as both drivers contributed to the crash. Magnussen for forcing an overtake in an even more complicated and fast area of the track, and Pérez for not foreseeing that this could go wrong and giving a bit more space to one of the most aggressive drivers on the current grid, which ultimately didn't end well. Well, analyzing the footage and seeing everything, what is your opinion? Was Pérez to blame? Was Magnussen to blame? Or were both at fault? Leave your opinion in the comments.